Good morning, Mr. Ambassador. Welcome. I would like to start by asking you, we heard the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, announcing last night that Hamas chief Mohammed Sinwar was killed. Does this mean that we are close to ending this 19-month-old war?
Good morning, and thank you for hosting me here. I think we are closer. It doesn't necessarily mean that we are there yet. This war, we don't measure it just by time, even though it's been more than 600 days since the Hamas attack on October 7th. It is measured by achieving goals. One of the goals is the elimination of Hamas as the ruling power in Gaza. We made one more step forward in this regard, but this is one of the goals. The other goals are, of course, the freeing of the hostages, and we still have 58 hostages being kept in the tunnels in Gaza. And, of course, bringing back this sense of security that would allow our people to live next to Gaza without fearing for another attack by Hamas.
Israel Defense Forces have been claiming that they have killed 20,000 Hamas fighters. Isn't that close to eliminating this terrorist organization that is your first goal?
Once again, we have made achievements in this war. Achievements is very important, but it's still not the end of the war. The war can be over tomorrow, but it is in the hands of Hamas much more than it is in the hands of Israel. I hear many people call on Israel to end the war. I don't hear enough people saying to Hamas, finish the war. There is a real enemy in Gaza that people don't see, so they forget about its existence. But there is a real enemy. We still have tens of thousands of terrorists, well armed, in the tunnels of Gaza. They are hiding in the schools, they are hiding in the hospitals, they are hiding in the kindergartens. They are hiding there behind human shields, which is their own people, because Hamas doesn't really care about the Palestinians. They care much more about trying to hurt Israelis than about their own people. One good example for this is what happened yesterday when Palestinians discovered that Hamas has a warehouse full of food in Gaza, and when they tried to take the food, Hamas was shooting its own people. This is the situation we are in. This is the enemy, which is the enemy of Israel, the enemy of everybody that believes in the values of democracy, of freedom. This is our shared enemy, and this is the one we are fighting.
In your effort to gain these achievements you talked about, though, Mr. Ambassador, Israel has been spotted now for its actions in Gaza Strip, a war of devastation, limitless killing of civilians, 54,000 according to numbers we have before us, Palestinians, women, children, 28,000 among them. So this is contradictory to what you describe as your achievements or your goals, and the consequences on civilian lives is huge.
It is true that there are unfortunately civilian casualties in Gaza. It's a tragedy. Every child who's being killed in such a situation, including Palestinian children, it is a tragedy which I very much hope we could have avoided. The thing is that this is a situation which is in a certain context, and the context is something that people sometimes put aside, and we need to bring it back to where it is. This enemy I was talking about before, Hamas, is still very much there. Not only that he is still there, he still speaks about repeating what he did on October 7th. He still holds capabilities, not the same as he had before, but he still has capabilities with the tunnels and with rockets and with people to doing this. And he says, I will do it again. So we cannot just end the war and let them prepare themselves for another attack. I think that to a certain extent, and I know that every historic comparison is flawed, also this one, but I want to make a comparison to the situation of the Second World War. We are more or less in the spring of 1945. So you see that Nazi Germany is about to fall. You can see the devastation. You can see that there are also civilians that are killed. But nobody is calling on the Allies to stop the war before they eliminate the Nazi party and make sure that the Nazis are not in control in Germany. I think this is more or less similar to where we are now. Devastation in Gaza, no doubt about it. Unfortunately, also civilians being killed. But we need to finish the war by eliminating Hamas as the ruling power of Gaza.
I would like to hear you answering all these voices that are growing day by day in the world, here in Cyprus as well. that ever since the beginning of the assault in Gaza Strip, what actually is Israel doing is an ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people there. And I want this answer. The numbers, I think, give the icon.
I disagree completely with this statement and with this claim, and bringing numbers as an example for anything is even strange to me. There are 2 million Palestinians in Gaza alone. Even if we take this number, which I'm not sure is the right number, but let's take 50,000, this is not even remotely close to ethnic cleansing, and this is by definition not the goal of the war. Again, people lose the context. We were out of Gaza. We left Gaza because of our own initiative in 2005. So we had no policy, and we still don't have a policy of trying to eliminate Palestinians or get rid of them or ethnic cleansing or whatever those kind of statements that are being made by others. People are putting labels on things, and then they look at it as if this is a fact. This is very much not the policy of Israel. We have a real enemy, which is Hamas. It's not the Palestinian people. I would say that Hamas doesn't care about its own people. People come to us with accusation, but look at what Hamas is doing to its own people. It's much worse than what Israel is doing.
This has been what you are saying as your goal from the very first beginning, and you had countries that were by Israel's side ever since the beginning. Now these countries diminish in number, and there is also growing accusations by the people all around the world, even by Israeli people, Mr. Ambassador.
I'll start with the end. Yes, you are right. There are voices in Israel that have different views. We are a vibrant democracy, and people have different views. I represented the view of the government, and this is the policy of the government. As for what the world is saying, we're not deaf to what the world is saying. We're not saying, oh, we don't hear this. We hear them. But we're also used to be in a situation in which the world is on one opinion, but we strongly believe that what we're doing is the right thing. And we view ourselves as a law-abiding country, as a vibrant democracy. We are fighting for our security, for our survivability, and we will continue doing this according to those values that we believe in. This is how we see the situation.
I'll insist a bit on the Israeli voices. We read an article by former Israel Prime Minister Ehud Olmert in Haaretz newspaper. We heard him talking to CNN yesterday. He was blasting Israel political leadership and the contact of the Israel military. He told CNN that he is no longer able to defend the country against accusation of war crimes. These are the voices of the Israeli people also, and I want to know how you answer to those. How does the government answer to those voices inside the country?
Now, clearly I cannot go into internal Israeli politics. I'm not in a position to speak about Israeli internal politics. Mr. Olmert was a prime minister. He has his own views. We have other former prime ministers that have the opposite views. Prime Minister Naftali Bennett was also online, and he says different things. So I'm not here to defend either what Mr. Olmert is saying or Mr. Bennett is saying. I'm here to try to explain the policy of the State of Israel.
Not responding to such statements, I understand. What about responding to the wave of Israelis leaving the country? Not only at the beginning it was because of fear for their own lives, Mr. Ambassador, but we read that now they are leaving the country because they no longer agree with the government's actions.
I understand the question, but again, my capability of discussing internal politics in Israel is limited. I'm here to represent the government of Israel and the State of Israel. Israelis are always been very opinionated about things, having different views, as you can recall.
They were out in the streets by millions
they are still
for
out
months.
in the streets. But this is not something new in Israel, and it will continue to be. There are different voices in Israel. Once again, as the ambassador of Israel, I can speak only about the official and formal policy of the State of Israel.
Okay. Let us talk a bit on Israel's blocking humanitarian aid to Gaza Strip 11 weeks. that action is not actually giving more, let's say, argument to those saying that what is conducted in Gaza Strip is actually war crimes?
So what the international law says about humanitarian aid, that it should reach the hands of those who need it, but you are not supposed to allow aid to go into the hands of the enemy. Now, Israel has been monitoring for all along the time the situation in the Gaza Strip. We do not want to see a humanitarian crisis when it comes to food in Gaza. If you remember, during the ceasefire, there were hundreds of trucks going into Gaza. The storages were full. There was no shortage of food in Gaza, even when the Israeli government decided for a period of time to stop letting new trucks go into Gaza.
That meant that there was no control on humanitarian aid coming in.
That meant that there was enough.
Why did this change after the beginning of the second phase of the war?
That meant that as long as there was enough food in Gaza, there was no humanitarian crisis. When the situation became worse, the Israeli government changed it and allowed, once again since last week, aid going in. But we need to say something about this, because we believe that the system in which aid was flowing into Gaza failed. Why has it failed? Because instead of reaching the hands of the people that need it, it was used by Hamas to empower itself and its own people. It was used in a way that Hamas was taking it to himself, or even worse, was selling it in the black market to the poor Gazans. So we are now implementing, together with the Americans, a different system.
But this system is also questioned by the United Nations, Mr. Ambassador.
I understand. But at the same time, we believe that this system should be given a chance, which this is just the first days of this system. And this system is supposed to allow the people that really need the aid to receive it, not buy it from Hamas in the black market, but actually get this into their own hands. Yesterday was the first day. On the second day, it's a process. This is why, while doing this, we also still allow aid flowing in the old way as well. By the way, also on this, you mentioned the United Nations. Just want to remind people, there are more or less hundreds of truckloads of food that already made their way into Gaza, but they are waiting to be distributed by the United Nations. This is not Israel. This is now the United Nations that's supposed to do this. So we are aware. We are not interested in having Palestinians starving to death. We want to find a way to be able to let the population that needs it to get the food and the medical aid that they need, and we continue monitoring this and finding ways to allow this without strengthening the enemy of all of us.
Okay, how would you respond to maybe a second Amalfia by the Republic of Cyprus along with other countries, like the first effort to bring humanitarian aid into Gaza Strip? Let me remind you that Israel was also accused during that first part of help, during the first Amalfia, that you were blocking.
Yes, Israel being accused is a given. We are always being accused. No, we are in favor. We're in favor of all ways in which to get within the framework of the new system that is being now implemented. There's no problem for the aid to flow either by sea or by air or by land into this new system that we have introduced with the organization that cooperate with this and make its way eventually to the hands.
So it's a precondition to use this system for putting more help in Gaza Strip?
I want to be careful with the word precondition, because as I said before, now in this interim period, there is still the new system and there's also still the old system. So I don't want to use the word precondition. Once this new system will be fully implemented, then through this system, we'll be able to allow aid to go into Gaza, also through the Amalfia plan.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador.
You're welcome.